BC's favorite senior lifestyle magazine comes to life. Join us as Senior Living goes on location to bring you the inspiring, informative, and entertaining adventure-filled stories of seniors in your community. Senior Living on location, changing the definition of aging, celebrating seniors living life to its fullest. Stay with Senior Living on location as we fire it up with local artisans and meet an extraordinary bunch of classic boat builders. But first, we enter the world of Robert Bateman. One could say that nature and Robert Bateman are synonymous. The Toronto-born artist now lives on 80 acres next door to the Ducks Unlimited Nature Sanctuary on the geographical center of Salt Spring Island in BC. The Canadian naturalist and painter has dedicated his life to art, ecology, and the preservation and appreciation of nature.
I've always been out in nature, and now we're learning, the scientists are saying, this improves your health. And I'm out in nature twice every day. We eat virtually only organic food. I do eat a lot of kale. Kale grows, it's amazing, kale grows here every month of the year. I can go out in the garden because we have a constant supply of kale. I just have a bag full of kale, and I just munch on it while I'm preparing lunch or while I'm hiking.
This 82-year-old's passion for the planet Earth and nature is extreme. You can see it through his work, which takes form in both the written word and on canvas. His love for nature is not something that happened as he aged, but rather an innate quality that's been a part of him as long as he can remember. And as he says, every kid loves animals and nature. He just never outgrew his innocence.
For some reason or other, I skipped teenage years. I had the years chronologically, but I'm doing now exactly what I was doing when I was 12, plus a bunch of other stuff. So all the way through my teens and 20s, I just kept on doing what I'd done when I was 12, doing art and nature, and all the way through my 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s, and I'm working on my 80s, 82 years old right now. You know, I'm not primarily using my artwork for protecting nature or conservation. I'm using my artwork as self-indulgence, as something I've always wanted to do, and I've always done. I got serious when I was 12. People ask me, how long have you been an artist and how long have you been a naturalist? Well, which is a meaningless question because all little kids love art and nature. I've never met a little kid who didn't love art and nature. In other words, all little kids love animals and all little kids love doing art. I have always been the same Bob Bateman from beginning to end.
Over the course of his career, Robert Bateman has painted hundreds of well-recognized paintings. He's had dozens of exhibitions, received many major academic honors and awards, written a number of books, been involved in a number of films, and has a couple different schools named after him. Despite his age, Robert continues to paint and work as an activist for the planet. He's currently working on the establishment of the Bateman Foundation, which in turn is laboring to create the Bateman Art Center in Victoria. The center will receive the legacy of all of Bateman's artwork. Robert is also developing the Robert Bateman Center at Royal Roads University, where they're pioneering a new out-in-nature learning experience that combines portable digital technology with art, science, and education. Though Robert is old enough and successful enough to retire from his art and activism, he continues to stay incredibly involved and busy with these passions. He's the epitome of an achievement-oriented senior. When asked how getting older has impacted his art and activism, he simply said, "As I get older, I worry less. Worrying seems stupid. I just don't have as much now to worry about, even though I'm incredibly busy."
I like what Mark Twain said. Mark Twain said, "You know, some of the worst things in my life never happened." And people spend all this time worrying and worrying and worrying about this horrible thing that might happen, and half the time it doesn't happen, maybe more than half the time. Well, so I recommend people procrastinate their worrying.
It's Robert's passion to inspire people to get back to nature. The goal of all his projects is to bring youth, educators, artists, and the outdoors together in hopes of creating a society that is empathetic to and inspired by nature.
Senior Living on Location is produced by Senior Living Media, celebrating seniors in our community.
You may be familiar with an annual art exhibition called FiredUp. It shows off the incredible talents of a group of ceramic artists that have found a passion that has also turned into a career for some. These artists are all professional, and each has a unique approach to the craft. Senior Living on Location had the pleasure to talk to a few of the artists, including Glenys Marshall Inman. Glenys lives with her husband Basil, and together they're not only very active seniors, but seniors who are very much entrenched in both nature and art. Though Glenys is the feature of our story, as an active member in FiredUp, we can't overlook the fact that her husband is also a talented fellow. Basil carves the most unique-looking tables, on which Glenys uses to display some of her works. And it doesn't end here. This active couple also dabbles in llamas. Yes, they have a pottery/carving/llama farm. And their studio store features everything from Glenys's one-of-a-kind pieces to llama wool and clothing items made from this luxurious yarn.
It's a whole lifestyle. It's not, everything matters, I think. The detail of everything, the garden is important. And whatever you do, you like to eat outside, so you think about that. And then that may go off into functional work for eating outside. 1988. That we got our first llamas, and they are very much a part of our lives and our children and grandchildren. That, I mean, it all works together.
No matter what happens to this couple, something always positive seems to pop up from something most would see as trying.
I'll tell you something. I cooked for 40 years, right? And then we came out here and we sort of semi-retired, but he actually had to have a knee replacement. And in his recuperation, he learned how to cook. And I fell in love with him all over again. And it has been absolutely marvelous, just marvelous.
So we can see why Glenys is so inspired when it comes to her work, which, by the way, is all functional and food safe. Her creations definitely stand out not only in the whimsical nature of her designs, but colors and vibrancy.
I love functional work, absolutely. And my very first teacher was a functional potter. And it's like you're imprinted, like whatever you do in your life, early on, you'll be imprinted with something. And so all the studies that I did with that, the Japanese, it's still there. And you move on and you do something like this, but now I'm going back and I have all these new designs for functional work. This piece here, the FiredUp show this year, the theme was the Salish Sea. And so we had to depict, that was our starting point. So this is like a tidal pool, and the title of it is actually Ocean Foam, so the crystalline glazes. But all this texture and everything comes from my walks on the beach.
Another favorite piece is this massive bowl.
It's called Teeming Teetering. So with the theme from FiredUp this year was the Salish Sea, so I wanted to depict what is in the Salish Sea. So this is teeming with life. And then with these pieces, the earthenware pieces, I like it to have an environmental say as well. So it's teeming, but it's teetering. So when people touch it, it makes them frightened. They think, oh, and it brings that to mind, the environment as well.
Glenys's studio and gallery are situated on a farm overlooking the Juan de Fuca Strait on Vancouver Island. Just before we arrived, the couple had just completed their involvement in the Souk's Secret Garden Tour weekend. Over 500 people had come to view their property and gardens. Glenys has been working with clay for over 38 years. She's been a core member of FiredUp for 12 years. She's dabbled in sculpture, jewelry, painting, and function work. Glenys believes that today's potter needs to be a designer, chemical technician, painter, and kiln firing expert, as well as a good business person and marketer. There are 11 full active members involved in FiredUp, and all of them are 50-plus years of age. Marlene Bowman is another member who got inspired in the craft a little later on in life.
I was in my 40s, and we moved from Saskatchewan, where I had a part-time English teaching job, and I attended one of these ubiquitous art classes, pottery classes. They're always all over the place, and particularly at that stage of the world. And it just hooked me immediately. I saw the teacher throw on the wheel a cylinder, and it brought tears to my eyes.
And Marlene has never stopped throwing since. She rather likes what she gets when the clay is slapped continuously, which she then shapes and creates wonderful impressions with tools she's either found or made herself.
It takes a while. It's an interesting process where you experiment a lot and play a bit and see what happens and stand back and admire or squish it up.
Marlene moved to Vancouver Island in 1993. Inspired by the rocks and forests around her, she discovered the excitement of exploring texture in clay. The 78-year-old has been a member of FiredUp for 7 years, but is retired this year as a core member from the organization due to her husband's ailing health. She continues to pursue her passion of working with clay in her inspiring studio, which is situated in a forest next to her home. Another creative force in the world of clay is Pat Weber. She's also created a wonderful home life where she pursues her passion for blending functional pottery art with a celebration of life.
Probably considered an outgoing person, and yet I have chosen a life where I work alone. And I love it. I've come to love the silence or whatever is around me and my work, the ability to focus without interruption. But then I bring in people and teach classes. And that's like an indulgence in people and in conversation, problem solving, and just the gift of giving what I know to other people.
Pat's inspiration comes from observing plants, animals, and rocks. She was born, raised, and schooled in Vancouver. She went to Oregon, where she graduated from their state university, and continued on at Portland's Museum Art School. Today, she lives and works on Salt Spring Island with her husband and newly adopted baby poodle. She's living her dream, creating her pottery as well as teaching her trade to others at a workshop located on her property. Her home also features a studio that's open to the public during certain months of the year. Every member of FiredUp is inspirational, with their own distinctive story to tell. We only had the chance to talk to but a few, including our last, but certainly not least, artist Gary Merkel, whose works can only be described as uniquely inspirational.
I think what stands me apart is that I'm more of a sculptor than a potter, and I use all hand building techniques. I don't use the wheel at all. I don't even own a wheel. So, yeah.
Gary's works are not only sold on the island, but his creations can also be found in galleries in Toronto. Each year at the annual event, FiredUp invites guest artists to also exhibit their works. The artists in FiredUp have found that by coming together as a group and showcasing their varied works enables them to attract a greater audience of interest. What some of these artists taught us is that their passion led them to their career today. But you can just take classes and enjoy the creativity clay offers. It's a flexible medium that provides a therapeutic, artistic, hands-on opportunity to be creative. And most of all, it's actually fun to play with clay.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Senior Living on Location is produced by Senior Living Media, celebrating seniors in our community.
Cowichan Bay is a charming oceanside community, rich in arts and culture. In the midst of little shops and terrific eateries, you'll also notice the Cowichan Bay Maritime Center. It's a society committed to the restoration and repair of wooden craft, along with the preservation of history and heritage of BC's maritime past.
The guys that built that boat were loggers.
Yeah, they don't see them kind of boats all fading away now. Yeah.
Harvey's the only logger that knows how to fish.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the size of it.
There are a number of seniors and retirees involved in the Cowichan Valley Wooden Boat Society. It's their way of staying active in their communities while following a personal passion. Senior Living on Location met with a few of the artisans and members of the society who keep this little gem afloat with their love of history and marine craft.
So I retired in 1998, I had quite a little bit of time on my hands, so I got into building again, but a different sort.
This 75-year-old has had an interest in boats for most of his life. Gordon Cooper enjoyed a 25-year career with the Royal Canadian Navy, followed by a 10-year career with the RCMP. We should mention he also dabbled in construction. Put all that together, and the result is this: breathtaking models with incredible precision to detail.
My favorite, believe it or not, is the Sapphire Sea, which is normally tied up here in Cowichan Bay. I asked Terry Gustafson if he'd let me come on his boat and take pictures so I could build a model, and he graciously said, yeah, go ahead, let's see what you come up with. So I spent about 5 months building the Sapphire Sea, and Terry hasn't seen it yet. So I don't know if he'd like it or not.
And in case you're curious, none of his works are available for sale.
I think all my children or grandchildren have spoken for one or the other. So when I'm gone, they'll end up with a ship.
Gordon's model ships are on display at various times during the year at the Cowichan Maritime Museum. Another incredible must-see exhibit here is one by Harvey George. Harvey is an elder native carver who donated a fleet of small-scale fishing boats to the Maritime Center. Harvey lives in Duncan and is a member of the Souk-based Ts'ok Band. Harvey spends most of his life in commercial fishing and logging. Each boat carved comes from a single block of wood. What makes Harvey's work stand out is not only the precision of his artwork, like the fishing gear, tiny tires to protect the hull from rubbing on the docks, and even miniature tables and chairs to complete the authentic look, but the fact that he doesn't use plans or measuring tools. Everything he does is done from memory and eye. On average, each boat has taken between 1 and 2 years to complete.
They're part of my life, I guess. Ever since in you, and never leave me. And so I said, when something happens to me, I can't pass on to nobody. That's the downfall, because nobody can do them. Like how I do them, cut my own chisel. So that's too bad, really.
Aside from seeing history in the miniature, the Maritime Center also offers the repair and restoration of motors. And this is where Magic Fingers Tony Owen comes on board.
We are a nonprofit society, and we have to raise our funds in whatever way we can. One of the ways we can do it is with donations, and donations of boats and motors that we can turn around at very little money and resell them out to the general public, or do services for the general public at a donation rate.
Tony and his wife Alma live on a converted fishing boat in Cowichan Bay. Tony has gained the reputation as the man with magic fingers. He engineered a renaissance in the British Seagull by expertly and diligently turning non-running motors into reliable outboards. If you hear a seagull in Cowichan Bay, be assured Tony's talented fingers have worked on it. No matter what your age, the Cowichan Bay Maritime Center is an adventure. The museum even offers children's workshops on wooden boat building.
And they bang on little cabins if they want, and they put some string on them and take them home. It's all free. I've seen a few quite extraordinary catamarans and trimarans coming out here. That's obviously not built by the 5-year-old.
Senior Living on Location is produced by Senior Living Media, celebrating seniors in our community.
The BC Seniors Games is an annual multi-sport event that is held in a different community in British Columbia every year. With about 3,500 participants, they are the largest organized games within BC. The BC Seniors Games is a combination of sports, recreation, fitness, and culture. A formula for leading a fulfilling, vigorous life at any age, but especially as you get older. The participants, all aged 55 or older, may have toned it down a notch, but there's still plenty of get up and go. In fact, many of these seniors are not just winning their events, they're also setting world records in track and field, swimming, and other physically taxing sports. For those not so athletically inclined, the games also include competitive activities that require a nimble mind rather than a nimble body. The BC Seniors Games is overseen by a society mostly held together by volunteers. It consists of 12 BC zones. Each zone has a set of directors and committees that are responsible for the administration and registration of members in their area in the 24-plus sports offered at the Games. If you aren't old enough to compete, or you simply don't want to compete, you're invited to come out and be a part of the cheering supporters and watch your fellow seniors in action. Successful aging is about leading a healthy, balanced life, and these seniors seem to have found the key. Do you have a great story idea about seniors living life to the fullest? Senior Living would love to hear from you. Your inspiring story idea could be featured in an upcoming episode on Senior Living on Location or in our monthly BC-wide Senior Living Lifestyle magazine. To send us your idea, visit our website at seniorlivingmag.com and follow the links to our Contact Us page, or simply email us at production@seniorlivingmag.com.